What is up everybody, Hoang0 here, and today I'm going to do a deck profile for what I believe has one of the best matchups against Beelzemon in the BT12 format, Darkknightmon. So a little backstory about this: I was trying to figure out how to beat Beelzemon because I predicted to be by far BDIF, maybe borderline tier 0, and I was joking around with some friends, and we jokingly were like, haha, Darkknightmon can beat Beelzemon, and then I sat there and I was like, wait, maybe it actually does, because you float into you have a blocker, float into a blocker, and then that blocker potentially floats into another blocker. If they can't kill you, then you can slap them on the clapback. So I'm just like, maybe this works. And I tested it, and I ended the first day of Darkknightmon versus Beelzemon like 10-2, so really good record. And so yeah, I'm really excited to share this. I think this could be really solid going forward into the BT12 meta. I think you do pretty well into Beelzemon, but against every other deck in the format, except maybe Red Hybrid, you're probably going to struggle with. So really play this deck if you just hate Beelzemon. So without further ado, let's get started. Now starting us off first, we do have 4 Pagumon from BT6. This Pagumon is on deletion, reveal a top card of your deck, add it to your hand if it's a black Digimon, otherwise bot deck it. Why you play Pagumon is because every other Digi-Egg in this deck, unfortunately, is just really bad. Like, you don't have a very good Digi-Egg, so with Pagumon at least, you can try and get a +1 on deletions. You get a lot of value with that because a lot of your Digimon want to be deleted, so like the Darkknightmons, for example, as well as your rookies, just like you can like run it in and get +1. So yeah, just in general, Pagu is probably your best generic egg. And then going into our level 3s, we do play 3 Monidamon. Monidamon is check top 4, and then you can go ahead and add a Twilight Army or a card with Nightmon in its name, I believe. And so Monidamon is just a really nice consistency bump in the deck because it can search for more or less the majority of your deck. Also, I forgot to mention, Monidamon adds 2 cards actually from the top 4. So that's actually really great because that gives you the ability to just get a bunch of your pieces for Digicrossing and such like that. So Monidamon, play it, and basically if you hit it, which you're probably going to hit it, it's a +2. So Monidamon is very good. The reason you don't play 4 is because you have to fit the other black rookies, and at a certain point, after you play the first Monidamon or 2, the 3rd and 4th lose a bit of their value, so you don't miss it too much. And then you play 4 Chumon. Chumon is really good because it's stopping memory gain, and against Beelzemon, stopping them from getting memory off their Wizard and Slinger Mills is very potent, so that alone is pretty great, and stopping any memory boost, like Miss Memory for example, is pretty good. You play 3 Kokuamon. This Kokuamon is not a card that sees a lot of play, just because as a Floodgate, it's very situational. It prevents your opponents from ignoring Digivolution requirements. So for example, it's really good against the Bond decks from BT6, but more importantly, it stops Impmon from Warp Digivolving into Beelzemon. So with a board state of Kokuamon plus your Dark Knight, sometimes it's just really hard for them to come back. And so that's why you play that. If you don't expect to play a lot of Beelzemon, then you can probably just cut the Kokua, maybe for more Monidamons, and like maybe some black vanilla rookies just to have some kind of pressure. But Kokuamon does really decent against Beelz. And then, now that we finally have it, you do play 4 of the Promo Dorumon. So Promo Dorumon is when revealed from security, reveal top card of your deck. If it's a 4 cost or lower black Digimon, you may play it. If it's anything else, add it to your hand, and then add this card to your hand. So Dorumon has so many valid targets to hit, actually, because between all of your rookies and all of your level 4s, those are all valid hits. So Dorumon on average is going to get out a free body, and then if not, it's still getting 2 cards to your hand at worst. So yeah, Dorumon is absolutely super insane for this deck, and it really makes it awkward for your opponent, because sometimes it either hits your Mighty Axe and then you get a free search off of it, or it gives you that extra body you can use for Digicrossing. So really great card. You cannot go any lower than 4 Dorumon for sure. Going into our level 4 lineup, we do have 4 of the Mighty Axe mode. Mighty Axe mode is on play if you reveal top 4 cards of your deck, I believe, and then you can add one of those cards with Twilight or the Nightmon or the Deadly Axe to your hand, and the rest you would trash. If you were to Digicross using 2 material, then you can delete an opponent's Digimon with, if I remember correctly, it's I want to say it's 5,000 DP. No, I take it back. It's if you Digicross with 2 Digimon, then you can delete a Digimon with play cost of 4 or less. And then it's for Digicross, it's with Skull Nightmon and Dudley Axemon, and for each material you used, it reduces it by 1. And this card is treated as both Skull Knight and Deadly Axe. So it's really, really good when it comes to being used for your fodder, just because it can be used as both. So Mighty Axe is probably your best level 4 in the entire deck, so I would highly suggest you don't go below 4. And the thing about Mighty Axe that's really important is that unlike the other Darkknightmon and Deadly Axe mons, Mighty Axe is actually a Twilight army, so therefore if you call it off of the Darkknightmon, it's actually a blocker with Nene, so really, really important that you play this. Next we play for the Darkknightmon from BT7. It has a when attacking effect that you can put a Deadly Axe underneath your Darkknightmon and then evolve into a Darkknightmon. And that's like nifty or whatever, but that doesn't come up super often. And its ESS is, if this card has Darkknightmon in its name, you get +1 security attack. So this is like your main source of pressure, being able to get that security plus, and then you can swing out versus your opponent. It's not too shabby. This piece is like kind of whatever. Honestly, it's more so just for its name than anything else. You play 2 Deadly Axemon. Deadly Axemon is on play, reveal top 5 cards of your deck and add 2 cards with Twilight and Skull. I believe it's a Night prefix in Deadly Axe as well. Or I don't remember if it adds Deadly Axe or not. You'd have to check that, but it adds Twilight and the Night prefixes for sure. And then its ESS is if you have Darkknightmon in its name, then you get +1000 DP during both players' turns. So Deadly Axe is pretty solid, to be very honest. The only issue with Deadly Axemon is that he himself is not a Twilight, which comes up quite a bit. With Darkknightmon, you're getting the pressure from the Sec Plus. With Deadly Axe, I mean, you get the +1000. The +1000 is kind of nifty, but it's not super necessary. So I only played at 2. And then you play 2 Cavalier mode. Cavalier mode is counted as both Skull as well as Darkknightmon as well as Deadly Axemon. So again, it's consistency right there. It can evolve over level 3 or level 4 for 1. And if you evolve, when Digivolving, gain jamming as well as blocker. So if you evolve over Darkknightmon, it's a jamming +1 security attack because it's the prefix of Nightmon for the Darkknightmon SA +1. And then with blocker, you can also play it very defensively. So yeah, it's okay. Like it's kind of aight, to be honest with you, but it's better than running another Deadly Axemon, to be honest, just because having both Skull Knight and Deadly Axe in your name is pretty good. Then we do play 4 of the new BT10 Darkknightmon. It is on play, Digivolve, and then if you Digicross with 2 materials, then you can go ahead and delete one of your opponent's Digimon with a play cost, or my bad. You go ahead and you can delete an opponent's Digimon with a play cost of 5 or less. And then its all turns is when this Digimon would be deleted by returning 1 level 4 or lower black Digimon card from this source to your hand, you may play 1 Skull Knight or Deadly Axe from your source without paying its cost. And then its Digicross -2 for Skull Knight and Deadly Axe. So why this card is really good is, number 1, Digivolve on demand is very powerful because there's just a lot of cards that have like layers of protection, so if you can strip that protection, it's pretty great. Then also pops with that layer stripped, so if you get them low enough, then you're basically getting a free proc, so it's really, really strong in that aspect. And yeah, like Digicrossing is super great and everything, so you can play it for as cheap as 4 cost. So this deck actually it struggles a little bit with trying not to pass turn, just because 4 or 3 is really awkward. So you want to use your memory boost for that situation, or you just want to pass turn on it and make sure that it's really hard for your opponent to come back. But more than anything, the important part here is that when you float from Darkknightmon X, which we'll get to in a bit, you can Digicross and re-proc Darkknightmon's on play, and also when this card is deleted, you A, get a card back in your hand which you can use for Digicross, and then B, you get a body on board, which sometimes can just establish lethal, or if you go into Mighty Axe, it's another blocker. Now we play 3 BT7 Darkknightmon. This Darkknightmon is on play. You can grab a Skull Knightmon and Deadly Axemon from your trash and stick it underneath this card, if I remember correctly. Or actually, let me go ahead and double check that. It's yeah, okay, from hand or trash, yeah. And then all turns, when this Digimon is deleted, you can play 1 Skull Knight and 1 Deadly Axe from this card's sources suspended without paying their cost. So the reason why this card is even in this deck is, number 1, it's a Darkknightmon name, as well as just having Twilight Army, it does not have Twilight Army, scratch that, but it has Darkknightmon in its name, so it does get blocker from Nene. But A, it's a target for Darkknightmon X to float into. B, this is the best one to evolve into from Raising if you want to go for that line of play. which is really important, especially if you're hinging on Darkknightmon X to win you the matchup. And then floating into 2 bodies is sometimes better than floating into the 1 if your opponent can't follow up on it. So Darkknightmon is definitely pretty solid in this deck. And then we play the 3 Darkknightmon X. So Darkknightmon X is evolve for 5 over the purple and black level 5s, but if you evolve over Skull Knight, then, or if you evolve over Darkknightmon, then you do get 3-cost evolution instead, which is pretty good. Or not 3-cost, it's a 4-cost evolution. And then when Digivolving, return 1 black or purple Digimon card other than Darkknightmon from your trash to your, other than Darkknightmon X antibody from your trash to your hand. And then when this Digimon has Darkknightmon or X antibody in the source, delete 1 tamer, so either a tamer on either player's boards, and then unsuspend this Digimon. On deletion, play a Darkknightmon from your trash without paying its cost. So again, this card is really impactful because popping, just tamer pop in general is just not very abundant, so having access to that is pretty good. You pop your own, which sounds really funny, but it matters for Nene, but mostly you're going to use it to pop your opponent's tamers. Grabbing back any card from your deck, basically, except for Darkknightmon X, is totally fine. It allows you to grab back your Digicross pieces or Floodgate, and then floating into Darkknightmon, again, is absolutely fantastic. And this does get blocker. Now, you may ask, like, oh, what if you try to fit a level 7 in this deck? And the issue with fitting a level 7 in this deck is that more often than not, you're going to pass your turn on the Darkknightmon X or a Darkknightmon, and it's unlikely that you're able to retain the stack and then go into a 7. Or you just don't go into it often. You don't go into your 6 often enough, so there's not a lot of like really potent reason to go for a level 7 play. Now we do play 3 Pride Memory Boost. Pride Memory Boost is when you play it, reveal top 3 cards of your deck, and you can play 1 black Digimon that is play cost 4 or less. So again, hits majority of your deck, and then if you cash it in, it's gain 2 memory. So like I said, in this deck, because of your cost being so high on average, being able to use these memory boosts to keep your turn is really impactful. And then getting a free body, the majority of which have an on-play effect or they're a floodgate, is really great. We play 2 Congo. Congo prevents your opponent from adding cards to their security, and then it prevents Digimon with play cost of 7 or less from swinging. This is really crucial in the format because it stops cards like Hunters, for example. It stops them from using like their small bodies to poke or your Restordramon from swinging. Versus Beelzemon, it stops them from swinging their Impmon and like procking any like Pagumon. It prevents them from swinging Wizard procking Yamon. It prevents Impmon Warp Digivolve into Beelzemon. It stops Ballmon from swinging as well. It just has like a lot of utility against the Beelzemon matchup, and that alone like really solidifies its position in this deck. We play 2 of the Black Memory Boost. Black Memory Boost, as you know, reveal top 4 cards, add 1 Black Digimon to your hand from them, and bot deck the rest. It's just really, it's just extra consistency, and it's a memory booster. And then 3, Quake Blast Fire Father. This is a really interesting card that doesn't see a lot of play, but I definitely think it's pretty like sleeper. But it's 7 costs. Select one of your opponent's Digimon with a play cost of 13 or less and pop it. So unlike Iron Fisted Onslaught, you can actually choose what you're deleting, and it also costs 1 less. So I feel like that in most situations, outside of like a few minor decks, this is just better than Iron Fisted Onslaught. And so the reason why you have to play it is, number 1, you want some kind of security bomb to slow down your opponent. As a deck, you are very defensive in terms of utility. So you just want to like turtle out and like really grind out your opponent to the late games. And so having some spot removal is really important, because if you notice, in the rest of your deck, you don't actually have removal. Like, you don't have any like tall removal. Your best form of removal is Darkknightmon Digivolve pop. That's not even guaranteed, because like if they have like Wizard X, for example, underneath, then you can't pop it, because Wizard X is a play cost of 6. So having access to Quake Blast Fire Father is really important, I feel like. I used to play it only at 2, but as time progressed, I realized just how important this card is in the deck, so I bumped it up to 3. And then we play 4 Nene. Nene is on play, reveal top 4 cards of your deck, and add a Twilight Army or a Knight prefix or Deadly Axe prefix to your hand. And then opponent's turn, your Twilight Armies as well as your Darkknightmons and whatnot. Your Twilight Army, your Darkknightmons all get blocker. And then when this card is deleted, gain 2 memory. So this is the entire combo with Darkknightmon X, is that you're supposed to like pop your Nene using it, then gain 2 memory back to extend your turn. And that's like, it's aight, to be honest, because then you're losing like your defensive utility. And so the important part about Nene is like, yeah, the searching is cool or whatever, but giving blocker passively is really strong, because it means you're not relying on a perfect stack or anything to have the blocker. You just need to see your 4 of Tamer, which is really important. And most of your deck searches the 4 of Tamer, so like you're kind of chilling. So how this deck has a good matchup into Beelzemon, or just how you want to beat the Beelzemon matchup, is you're gonna deck them out more often than not. You're going to sit there and you are literally just going to deck them out, because in their attempts to try and stop you, they're going to constantly mill themselves out. And as long as you float into multiple bodies, remove any Digimon they have on their board, they just cannot close the game out versus you unless they like go really fast early game. So that's why Darkknightmon does really well, because like let's say they have Beelzemon, okay? They swing starter deck Beelzemon at 12. Well, Darkknightmon X is 12k, so you automatically trade in with them, and then you float into a Darkknightmon. But let's say they're above. Let's say they're bigger than 12. And they swing, and then you can block the 2, and then you can float back down into a Darkknightmon, and then de-Digivolve them back into an Impmon. If you do, that pops their stack, easy. If they have Ballmon underneath, that's totally fine, because then you're forcing them to have another 6 in order to continue their play. If you do that, then they still have to swing, and then they have to go through Darkknightmon, and then Darkknightmon can float into Mighty Axe, and like you more or less get the gist, right? Is like it's very difficult for them to actually push through your Dark Knight setup. So yeah, that's how you do beat Beelzemon, and then like with Red Hybrid, again, you can just wall them out. But versus Hunters, it's really difficult because Hunters can just bot deck you underneath. War Greymon can double swing, as well as they have access to de-Digivolve if they wanted to, so it's really awkward in that aspect. But yeah, I think this deck is really fun. I don't think this is like tier 2 or this maybe like middle tier 2 at like best. But realistically, the only reason you would play this deck is if you just hate Beelzemon players and you just like want to grudge match them. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Really appreciate it, and hope you can set out what you accomplished and just vendetta matchup into Beelzemon. So peace.